back. Welcome back, everybody. It is time for the race here at the Bahrain Short Sakir International Circuit. We saw qualifying here in the previous stream, so we are not going back to do our short qualifying. We are just going to jump right into the race as discussed. Hello and welcome back, everybody. Thank you for rejoining into the stream. My name is Fallen Monkeys, here getting ready to kick off what is going to be a very, very exciting race, as I have mentioned before. Now, it's been mentioned in the Discord chat, but for those who maybe have the stream up, not paying attention to the Discord as much as others, I will slap the reminder here as well. Do not forget your setups. In a situation like this, it can be a very tough time if you do not have your setup on, if you use a custom setup for this track. Nothing is worse, and I'll be honest, I am speaking out of pure experience when I say having to do a restarted race without having my setup on because I remembered putting it on in the previous lobby. It's a really bad time, and I do not want to be seeing that to anybody here today. So, friendly reminder, put those setups on, get those ready. Subtle but whole, I think he's got his setup on, he's got his strategy ready to go. He is ready to kick off the formation lap, and then, of course, the official start of the race here at Bahrain Short. It's going to be a full 100% race. We are going to have 57 laps here around the circuit. But of course, that is, it doesn't mean much, because here around Bahrain Short, the lap times are right around a minute, so it's going to even out to the same as what would be a normal 50% race from what we see. It's just going to make things more exciting, more laps, more overtaking opportunities, and you can see the drivers are ready to go. Look at Unholy Red Eye. He's really trying to break in those tires with that fresh set of soft tires, with that nice little drift off of the start. But Murph and Selly leading the way here after qualifying on pole. Young DJ CJ in second in the Red Bull. Unholy Red Eye in third. So 1, 2, 3 in the championship. 1, 2, 3 here in qualifying. After qualifying, Chief Braze in fourth. Subtle but Whole rounding out the top five. Houdini in sixth. Chunky Corgi is in 7th, Kaz FSJ is in 8th, GDB, the first racing point, up into 9th, and the only racing point here, with the Disgruntled Muppet rounding out the top 10. K-Dog, best of the rest, P11 for her, with her teammate Guitar Maniac 666 in 12th. So Renault, a full Renault lineup there for 11th and 12th in row 6th. A Wild Maida is in 13th in the Williams, with C Freeman in 14th. Team B7 Racing rounding out the top 15. Clogmonger in 16th. Team Air Jordan in 17th, with Racing Ginger in 18th. And It's Heavy, the only driver to put on the medium tires here to start the race, in 19th. And as mentioned in the previous stream before all of this happened, I like this bold strategy call, because if he can nail the medium tire strategy, go a little bit longer, gain some positions while everybody's taking pit stops and fighting amongst each other, he could have a nice quiet race and a very solid result from starting from the back of the grid. But as you can see here, let's get the track map up so everybody can get an idea of where we are here on the racetrack, and also to help me out with some gaps here. We can see It's Heavy and the rest of the back of the order taking their positions on the grid. It is time. Totally take one here for the start of the race. 57 laps around the Sakir International Circuit, Bahrain Short. And here we go, up to 3 lights, 4 lights, 5 red lights. And they are off. We are going racing here at Bahrain Short, and it's looking to be a very good start from both front runners here as we're heading down to turn 1. How is this going to be? I'm seeing GDB fighting for position in the back. They're going side by side through turn 1 here. Murph and Selly still holding on to that P1 after the start, but look at this behind. Oh no, that is looks to be Subtle but Whole, who had a big moment there, trying to get caught up. That's looked to be C Freeman going very deep in the corner, coming back on track there ahead of Team B7 Racing after what nearly looked to be forgetting that you have to take that corner there. Sometimes you get into that mindset that you're in the actual Bahrain. Ooh, that was Guitar Maniac right behind that. Had a big moment there, falling down the order, I think, as losing the back end, coming back on track now. That's going to be a costly mistake. Watch out, Subtle But Hole gaining a position, but the top two, Murph and Selly, young DJ CJ getting ahead. Chunky Corgi now making some moves. He's getting ahead of Houdini here, having to go a little bit wide as the Ferrari is battling back out. Guitar Maniac, though, the Renault, out of this race after one lap. Not what they wanted, but there's a drag race going on, and that's going to be the Mercedes. I think that's Unholy Red Eye getting involved. They're nearly 3 wide going into turn 1 after lap 2. Settle back to 2 wide, and that is going to be, I believe it's Unholy Red Eye, if I'm not mistaken. No, that was Disgruntled Muppet, actually, who was making that move. But hang on, was that a bit of a battle here going on between It's Heavy, C Freeman right behind, I believe, as my order might be Clogmonger, though. As my, no, that is C Freeman. Clogmonger, though, is a little bit further ahead. We've got the Ferrari, though. It's Heavy battling it out, but we are under what is a full yellow flag. I think it might be a virtual safety car that is out right now. Let's take a quick peek here. If I look at the, oh, it's not going to tell me anything on the steering wheel, but it looks as though we're going to get a bit of a breather. We've got full yellow flags for the session. I do believe we are under virtual safety car, and there we go, back to green flag. Chief Braids getting a really good jump off the VSC restart, nearly getting ahead of Chunky Corgi. It's Heavy and C Freeman are having a bit of a battle here, but C Freeman and Clogmonger, I should say, as teammates are exchanging positions. But let's see, Chief Braids, Chunky Corgi, they're still battling it out going into turn 1. It's going to be Chief Braids who gets the inside line here. It's going to turn into the outside, but right back to the inside line here for the number 25 Williams car. But it's going to be Chunky Corgi finding that toe, finding the push when he needs it, and get some DRS for good measure, as now you can see that's Maida, the teammate of Chief Braids, wanting to get ahead. He feels he's got some pace with some DRS, as we might see a little bit of a Williams battle here as they're going side by side. Ooh, but Chief Braids having to slow down. Maida does get by. His teammate having to slow down, though, as we do see the switch in the Williams. Chief Braids might be focusing on It's Heavy, who on those medium tires, you can see having a very good start of the race, already up to P11 after starting in 19th. So very good start from It's Heavy, as they have gained a lot of positions. They've gained 8 positions, probably the biggest mover here. But through all of that, you can see Murph and Selly, he's created a bit of a gap here to young DJ CJ, over a second now, as you can see in that distance. And has still a lot of VRS to play with too, so Murph and Selly showing a lot of pace here. Meanwhile, young DJ CJ is being pressured by GDB, who had an absolutely banger start, it seems, finding himself up into P3. He was in the middle of the pack from the start of the race here, but hang on, I want to see this battle, because we have Chunky Corgi. Well, Maida, I completely missed this, got past Chunky Corgi off screen, but now Chunky Corgi might be looking to make a push, looking to make a move to come right back at Maida. And we'll see how it's going to be heading into the braking zone, taking a little bit of a cautious approach as Corgi through that final corner. Is he going to have DRS? Yes, he will have DRS, so he can try to close up a little bit down this very, very long back start finish straight here. We are still in the early stages of this race, though, only starting lap 5, but that is a bit of a tank slapper from Maida. It seemed up ahead, as you saw, so that might allow Chunky Corgi to close right back up this gap. He's going to get more DRS here. He's got to get the exit he needs, though, because it looks like Maida is getting a much better exit. But hang on, out of nowhere from right behind, Chief Braids, he got the exit he needed. He was able to close up enough, and he actually overtakes Chunky Corgi to go up into P9. So Maida can maybe breathe a little bit easier now, as he's now got his teammate behind him who can focus on trying to keep that hungry McLaren of Chunky Corgi behind, and allow Maida to maybe try to close up to the Ferrari of Houdini, who's 1.5 seconds ahead of Maida. But Houdini, though, really going to have to maybe put pedal to the metal here, maybe put some of that ERS to use, as he's 2.5 seconds behind Disgruntled Muppet. We've got a move here. That's Kaz going down the inside of Unholy Red Eye, but going deep into turn 1. So Unholy Red Eye seeing that, getting that switchback move, and taking that position right back from Kaz, but I think Kaz might look to try this again. You can see has DRS. GDB, though, actually got ahead of young DJ CJ, and that explains why, because that's young DJ CJ having a big moment here and falling down. Oh no, and that was some wing damage as I took a look at the chat for 2 seconds. Unholy Red Eye going from bad to worse as he is missing a lot of front wing there on that Mercedes, nearly taking Houdini with them and might get involved whether he wants to or not in this 3-car battle between Maida, Chief Braze, and Chunky Gorgie. Kaz, meanwhile, getting ahead of young DJ CJ, who's falling down to P5 now. Disgruntled Muppet up into 4th. Kaz now up into a podium position in P3, but very quickly though now Disgruntled Muppet coming down the inside, but it's going to turn into the outside, but Kaz is able to nail that corner perfectly, find the traction, get ahead, and hold on to that P3 for the time being. And oh no, that is C. Freeman out of this race very, very early here on lap 7, retiring in the pits, not happy with his outcome. But we've got some overtakes that's side by side between the Alfa Romeo and the Mercedes, and it's going to be Disgruntled Muppet who takes that podium position right back from Kaz. Up into P3 is Disgruntled Muppet into 3rd position, but for how long now? As you can see, Kaz coming right back. It looks as though Kaz very much so has a straight line speed setup. Ooh, this could be dangerous here as Kaz trying to get back into the racing line to take the corner, nearly taking the wing and Disgruntled Muppet right along with them. That could have been very, very dangerous if he's not careful. A little bit of movement there, to say the least, from Kaz as he's seemingly trying to defend that position. You don't like seeing movement like that. Now, whether or not that's connection or Kaz just warming up the tires, we won't know, but that's a little bit questionable from Kaz, at least at first glance, with that swerving left and right, heading down the start-finish straight. That's not what you like to see. That is a very easy way to get into an accident, where you will not really need to have an accident happen, pulling stuff like that. But it looks like we got through squat-free. Disgruntled Muppet in 3rd, Kaz in 4th, and they're going to have to watch out, the both of them, though, now, as young DJ CJ, I think he's starting to get a feel for that Red Bull now. He is looking to come back at brute force. He wants to get back up into P3. He wants to get back up into P2, where he belongs. He wants to try to make the charge on Murphy, who is now at a 4.2 second gap to GDB. So really, really flying here is Murphy here in these early stages, as he has already created a gap, and it looks to be a 2-horse race. The Williams are changing, have exchanged positions. A big moment from Maida as he nearly loses that back end of the Williams, and now because of it, getting involved in a battle with It's Heavy, who is up into P9 now on those medium tires and looking to improve a little bit more. He's going to have to watch out, because here comes Chunky Corgi going to go down the inside. They're going side by side, and it looks as though Chunky Corgi is going to get the move done right in the braking zone. So Chunky Corgi back up into 9th. It's Heavy falls down to P10, going very, very deep there in that corner. A funky line there for sure. Ooh, almost a tank slapper, almost losing the back end there. Is able to hang on, but that's going to allow K-Dog in that Renault. She's going to get a nice run here, thinking about making a move down the inside of the final corner, but thought better of it. It's going to wait for DRS, I think, but It's Heavy. What is going on here? It's Heavy is taking a pit stop very early on, before even the soft tire runners take their pit stops. So I'm not too sure if I want to take a look at this quickly. Oh, there's a wing damage. That's why they're taking a pit stop. That is not what you wanted at all with those medium tires. That really puts a damper in that strategy. A big hole now, as It's Heavy going to have to commit to a 2-stop, maybe a 3-stop now if he's not careful. Racing Ginger, he's putting on the medium tires, getting off of those softs. So he's going to look to go a little bit long. Young DJ CJ, though, he's finding himself on track right behind Kaz. Nearly was able to get an overtake done, but will need to still slot into P5 but will ride on board with the Red Bull, as we'll see maybe down this the start-finish straight with the DRS, where the toe is very, very strong here. This is where we might see the overtake, but Kaz, meanwhile, they're able to, they got a little bit of DRS on Disgruntled Muppet, who's a little bit further ahead, so it looks like to be a little bit of a DRS train in this stage of the race on lap 11, starting lap 11 out of 57 here, as it's still Murph and Selly leading the way, and GDB is now 5.3 seconds behind, so a little bit of the leaders are, at this stage of the race, are kind of just having their own race, but that doesn't mean we don't have action. We've got still a battle brewing for what is the final podium position here in these early stages. Kaz now is closing up to Disgruntled Muppet, gonna try to lunge down the inside, but saw that gap close, going a little bit wide on the exit there of that corner, having to adjust, so Disgruntled Muppet's gonna get a bit of a better exit. That might allow Young DJ CJ to close up the gap. If Young DJ can nail this final corner, they might be able to make a push. Doesn't get it as well as you were hoping for. Disgruntled Muppet kind of breaking away, but I think Kaz is going to be trying to make a push here, as he's got DRS. Not having to worry about Young DJ. Gonna try down the inside. He's gonna have to make it tight. Ooh, going very deep, nearly pushing Disgruntled Muppet off track. And oh no, that's a Young DJ CJ and Disgruntled Muppet getting caught up into an incident there. No, calamity here, as the Red Bull and the Ferrari, or the Red Bull and the Mercedes, excuse me, both in the gravel. They're both trying to get back on track here. It looks like a Disgruntled Muppet is suffering a little bit more as Young DJ finally gets back on, but they both lost a lot of positions there. Now, it looked like that all started from Kaz trying to go down the inside, braking a little bit late, forcing Young DJ wide on the exit, really forcing him out. But unfortunately, Young DJ hitting the brakes, coming back on track, and just, I think it was Disgruntled Muppet who had a run right behind, and unfortunately, wrong place, wrong time, and they both get caught up. But here, we've got some more action as K-Dog, she is essentially side by side with Chunky Gorgie. It's the McLaren against the Renault. Who is going to take it? And the Williams might be battling right behind. They might get involved in this, whether they want to or not. Still side by side through turn one are these two drivers, but Chunky Gorgie getting the slightly better line through turn one, hanging on to that what is now P7. K-Dog, she is still stuck in this McLaren sandwich in 8th position, seeing Settle But Hold behind in 9th. Chunky Gorgie ahead in 10th, or ahead in 7th, excuse me, as I'm completely mixing up my numbers here, but still solid driving from the Renault driver here, as she is hanging on to her position and might be trying to make a push here on the next lap or two to try to re-overtake. But now we do have more battles. It's heavy. Team B7 Racing battling for essentially the silver spoon here, the wooden spoon, I should say. It's going to be the Ferrari getting ahead of Team B7 Racing for the moment as they go up into P14. Houdini, though, makes a move on Kaz. Houdini finds himself up into P3 now in that Ferrari, as Kaz now down in 4th. K-Dog finally gets ahead of Chunky Corgi, as now we're seeing both the McLaren drivers going side by side. Who's going to win this battle between the two McLaren drivers? The same machinery. There's a little bit of contact there between teammates. They've got some elbows out racing. No love lost for these two drivers on the circuit, as they both want to prove who's the #1 driver on that team here. It looks like for now Settle But Hold getting the advantage, but only just, as Chunky Gorgie stays behind. But here at Bahrain Short, a lot of elbows out in these early stages. Drivers really allowing, I mean, they're showing a lot of respect, but only just, as, oh no, it's heavy having a moment, back on track now, but I think lost out on a few positions in that process, as I saw that Ferrari on the mini-map having a little bit of a tough time. Air Jordan, I think that is going very deep in the into turn one, and looks to be missing an end plate there on that Alfa Romeo, so not having the best time is Air Jordan here, as might be trying to stick it out so that way he can just get that wing change on the pit stop. Now meanwhile, the Williams, we've seen teammate battles here left, right, and center at this Bahrain Short here in the early stages of the race. Chief Braids now battling it out with Maida For now, Chief Braids is leading the way, but we saw those positions switch. Maybe it's a battle between the Williams drivers, but maybe this is a bit of a strategy call from the Williams. They're there together. They've got K-Dog behind them, but if the Williams can work, put their differences aside, work as a team, they can use each other, have a little bit of a slipstream fest, a little bit of a tow, try to create some separation from from K-Dog, who's behind, and try to close up to Kaz, as Chief Braids, who's the leading Williams, is 4 seconds behind. Disgruntled Muppet, though, now getting ahead of Clogmonger, as Clogmonger down in 12th. Disgruntled Muppet up into 11th now, as trying to regain that gap, to reclose that gap on young DJ CJ, as they both got involved in that incident earlier on in the race just a couple laps ago. But crucially, Clogmonger comes right back into turn 1, gets the move done on Disgruntled Muppet, as that is the AlphaTauri back up into P11. But for how long now? As you can see, you can throw a blanket over these two cars and cover them up. And here, I think it's going to get even closer. Let's ride on board with Disgruntled Muppet, as he's got a lot of pace here. Being forced to the outside here of this corner. You can see he's leaving room. That front wing was just there, but now Disgruntled Muppet gets the overtake done up into P11. But we might see this position switch a few more times before this is over, as Clawmonger is still 3/10 behind. A little bit of ERS in the tank, a little bit more than Disgruntled Muppet as well, looking at these the onboards, looking at this here. Now, K-Dog, she is absolutely flying around this circuit in that Renault, getting ahead of Chunky Corgi once again, or that Subtle Hole, actually, I think, that got ahead, as, yes, that is Subtle Hole who got ahead of K-Dog. So Subtle Hole now flying around the circuit. He's finding some pace. Excuse me as I correct myself. Ooh, a Wild Maida nearly losing that Williams there in the dirt. That almost allowed Subtle Hole to get a bit of a run, but crucially it was not meant to be. And it looks as though that might be Racing Ginger, I think, as we're starting to approach lap cars. Slowing down, getting caught up in this corner here. That's Team Air Jordan getting out of the way. That's what you love to see. You don't want to get involved in these in the lead driver battle. That is the last thing you want here, as we've got the Williams so close to one another as they're trying to close up. Here comes Subtle Hole. I thought he was going to go for a move, but no, the first of the McLaren drivers to take a pit stop. It looks as if they're pitting just a little bit earlier than the most. Most of these drivers looking to stay out for what is going to be maybe one more lap, maybe two. Some might go to lap 20, and then they can do, it's going to sound crazy to say, 37 laps on those medium tires. But I'll be honest with you all, Bahrain short, not my most expertise circuit here. So I'm going to be winging these strategy calls here along here as I go. But I would think here around with 17, 18 laps on the soft tires, it wouldn't be crazy to assume that you could do maybe 35 laps on the mediums. Especially if you can bring those softs 20 laps and try to pull off that one stop. You can also go on the hard tires if you'd rather be safe. But of course, if you put on the hard tires, you're kind of giving up some of that initial pace on those fresher tires. But you are going to maybe have a little bit more pace with that slower degradation later on in the session. Now you can see K-Dog back up in 7th. Now these four cars here, the two Williams, the Renault of K-Dog, and the McLaren of Chunky Corky, they've been at each other for quite a few laps now. But I think the initial stage of the race, where we're seeing overtakes left, right, and center, has ended. We are kind of in a bit more of the tire conservation, fuel conservation mode of the race, where drivers are looking to meet their pit stop windows, meet their time deltas, and essentially start running their own races. And if they want to push for overtakes, they can, but we're at the point now where tire wear is starting to take a bit more of a priority compared to just pushing flat out, as drivers might want to extend as long as they can on these softs to take the mediums comfortably to the end of the race and not be forced to take an early pit stop like we've seen some drivers do. But we might see some overtakes here as the Williams are going a little bit side by side. I thought they would help each other out with some slipstream, but that's not the case, as this essentially allowed K-Dog to close right back up. Maida getting ahead of his teammate Chief Braids. Chunky Corgi, though, right behind, getting ahead of K-Dog, as now they're, right as I'm saying that, we're starting to see many position overtakes. Subtle but Whole getting ahead of the Mercedes of Unholy Red Eye, as those fresher soft tires are definitely going to have more pace here. But call it the commentator's curse, but as soon as I start saying that drivers are going to settle in, not worry about overtakes, look what happens. We see two overtakes here in the span of one corner from drivers oh so close together, and we might have more coming, as now Chunky Gorgie finding some life in those soft tires and might be trying to push to make a move. You cannot compromise your line through this final corner, though. This is where you're going to want to make a move with DRS heading down this start-finish straight. But Chief Braids, though, you can see he's got the exit, getting back ahead of his teammate Maida, as I think both Williams drivers are trying to work that strategy to a T. A little bit of wheel contact between Chunky Corgi and Maida. This might allow K-Dog. No, I thought K-Dog was going to go for a run, but she was a little bit further back. So looking to maybe focus on tire conservation now more than the others here to go a little bit longer. We're on lap 21 out of 57 already in this Grand Prix. Like I said, these laps are absolutely flying by here in this race, and it is definitely a good one here. Murph and Selly still leading the way here in that Haas, and that gap, I wasn't taking a look at the gap for quite some time, but Murph and Selly, what a race they've driven. They are on a 13-second gap, nearly a full pit stop ahead of GDB. And if you're Murph and Selly, I think you start questioning, do you just want to push these softs and get that full pit stop gap? What happened? Oh, that's Chief Braids in the pits. Oh, I got worried there. I thought something was happening as I saw him tumble down the order. Subtle but Whole, he's continuing his journey up the back up the field as he overtakes Clogmonger, who is now down in 11th. Subtle but Whole in a top 10. Chief Braids putting on a set of mediums and needing to get a front wing change too for good measure. That's not what you like to see there, as that's going to be a much longer pit stop than what you'd like for the Williams driver. But back on track now, just about right behind right between the two Red Bulls on the track, but right behind the Red Bull of young DJ CJ, who is now finding himself in 13th position, really trying to get a recovery drive done. But I think young DJ CJ now committing to the two-stop here, the soft, medium strategy, I would think. Now, if I'm looking at this battle, that's been the closest battle on circuit for quite a few laps now. It's now Maida, Chunky Corgi, and K-Dog. Maida up into 5th now, as they are still continuing on these tires here, these initial set of soft tires. Unholy Red Eye and Cloudmonger, though, they were going side by side, and it looks like it's going to be the Mercedes who gets ahead. But it's heavy now with DRS. He's going to go down the inside of the AlphaTauri. Is he going to get the double overtake, though? No, just slots inside, right between the Clogmonger and Unholy Red Eye. And I think, watch out here. Let's ride on board with this heavy. You can see he's trying to get the overtake done, forcing Unholy Red Eye to take a much tighter line, allowing the Ferrari to get that exit he wants. They're gonna get close here. They're side by side, but I think It's Heavy is gonna get the overtake done. Yes, he is. Only just, though, Unholy Red Eye having to slot in behind the Ferrari, but with those slightly fresher tires from It's Heavy after that early pit stop, I think it was going to be It's Heavy's position either way. Maida, meanwhile, is taking a pit stop here after 23 laps. You can see it might be quicker than their teammate, unless there's a wing change to have for Maida as well. Let's take a look. No, it's just the tires, putting on a fresh set of mediums, which should very well bring him to the end. Subtle but Whole now, and Disgruntled Muppet, they're still battling on circuit, it appears. But Subtle but Whole definitely taking the better of that. Disgruntled Muppet on those 23-lap old soft tires, so might need to be pushing sooner, might need to take a pit stop, excuse me, sooner rather than later. That was Team Air Jordan, if you saw that on the bottom of your screen. That is unfortunately a disconnect from the Alfa Romeo. So hopefully they can get back into the session and finish up the race. I do hope that wasn't a willing leave, because that is something ideally you'd much rather see done in the pit lane rather than on track, so that way you don't have that AI car heading around the circuit, possibly causing chaos if you're not careful with other drivers on the field. But we're starting to see more pit stops now. That's GDB, K-Dog, Chunky Corgi, they're taking their pit stops, timing it the same. Murph and Selly, though, now 20-second gap here, still has yet to take a pit stop, but might be going in at the end of this lap. Let's take a look here, and yes, very clearly taking their what is going to be probably their one and only scheduled pit stop. Is going to allow Houdini to close this gap up just a tiny little bit. Oh no, it's Heavy having a big moment here as they're now falling down the order. Maida on those fresh mediums gets ahead. Unholy Red Eye got ahead as it's Heavy losing the back end, I think. There's no wing damage, so crucially, it's only going to be some slightly extra wear on those tires, but it is still a couple positions lost, as it looks like Maida really got ahead there compared to everybody else. K-Dog stuck behind Chief Braids, as I think there might have been a wing change for the Renault of K-Dog as well in that. After all that battling, because even Chunky Corgi got out way ahead, is now right behind It's Heavy, and a little bit closer behind Maida. So unless there was a lot of traffic, I don't think that was the case. I think it was just wing damage here. But Chunky Corgi, ooh, a little bit of an ambitious move, trying to go down the inside of It's Heavy there. But you could clearly see from the onboard that that was not going to end well if he did try to complete that move. So very wisely backs out of it and is going to try again a little bit later on here in the race. We are on lap 26 out of 57. Murph and Selly, as Houdini takes a pit stop. Murph and Selly already crossing the line here as Houdini and Kaz are taking their scheduled pit stop. And Murph and Selly gets back to the lead of the race. And oh no, that is Heavy out of this race. That is a crash out. Is that going to bring out what I think it's going to bring out? We'll have to see here as we've got two drivers coming through. Let's take a look at the onboard and exactly where I thought that car was going to be. You saw that on the... we'll take a look at clock. You saw that on the left-hand side there. That's, I think, clipping that curb a little bit too much. Maybe losing the back end on the outside. And It's Heavy was running a very solid race, but unfortunately now out of this race is the Ferrari of It's Heavy. Chunky Corgi now and young DJ CJ, they're battling it out here on circuit. It looks like a young DJ CJ on those soft tires. He's got the advantage, gets the overtake done, as he's going to try to close up to Maida. And I think, meanwhile, Unholy Red Eye got ahead of Kaz, who is now down in 6th position. Maida now is right up behind Kaz, as this is going to be a very good battle brewing now for what's looking to be for P6, or possibly even P5 now, as Unholy Red Eye really not getting the exit he needed. Kaz getting a much better exit out of that corner. They're going side by side. What a view we have from the onboard of Maida here, as Kaz going down the inside of the final corner. Is he going to get DRS with that as well? Let's take a look. No, it's going to be Unholy Red Eye who gets DRS. Getting into the toe, Maida has DRS as well, and let's see, Unholy Red Eye going to try down the inside. I think Maida thought about following right behind, is going to lurk in the shadows though, and try to catch somebody off guard. Nearly caught Unholy Red Eye off guard there, but is going to try to take a nice line. Are we going to see? Hang on, we got to get a better camera angle than this. Come on, give me a better camera angle. Here we go. 3 wide now as we're heading down the back straight into this corner here, and that was Kaz who's going to back out. Maida now finds himself in P5. Through all of that, Unholy Red Eye still in P6. So essentially, Kaz and Maida switch positions there. But what a sight to see going 3 wide down the back straight, And the only thing that could have made things better here in the commentary's booth is if we had 3 wide going through that corner section, but we all know, drivers as much as commentators, how that could end if we're not careful. But crucially, through all of these pit stops, we've essentially seen everybody close right back up. Unholy Red Eye now taking a pit stop. Here comes Kaz now. I'm trying to see, was very close to young DJ CJ, who now finds himself in P6 as he's trying to close up on Maida. Let's see if he's going to be able to get this overtake done. Young DJ rocking a little bit of a different strategy than everybody else, working that 2-stop. I think is going soft mediums. Chunky Corgi losing a position to the Williams of Chief Braids. Young DJ now getting ahead of Maida. Ooh, a little bit of contact from Maida there as nearly losing that back end of that Williams. Nearly opened the door for Kaz and could have been much worse for the Williams if you weren't careful. But staying clean, staying safe. And look at this. We've got like 6 cars essentially, one behind another. This is what you like to see here. All battling for position. Nobody going to be heating away to everybody. As you can see, this is going to be a good battle here with this DRS train. How is this all going to play out here between now and the end of the race? We are on lap 30. We have 27 laps to go in this Grand Prix. We are past the midway point. It is Murph and Selly leading the way. 19 seconds is the gap between first and second, and this gap is growing here through every lap, it seems, with Murph and Selly putting up a very dominant performance. But here comes Chief Braids now, trying to go down the inside of Kaz. I'm not too sure why that was, why Chief Braids backed out, actually, as I thought he had the move essentially done, unless it was Kaz who got the move done on Chief Braids. Maybe I'm just completely too busy looking at the timing boards to miss out on the action on the track. But crucially, a little bit elsewhere on the track, Unholy Red Eye getting ahead of Clogmonger. Give a little bit more love to some other drivers here on the stream, as Unholy Red Eye, after taking that pit stop, could definitely go to the end of the race on those mediums, and already making up one position, but gonna have his work cut out for him now, as he is 6.5 seconds behind his teammate of Disgruntled Muppet, and then are gonna have to close up 13 seconds before catching up to this next train involving K-Dog, Chunky Corgi, Chief Braids, Kaz, and Wild Maida, being led by a young DJ CJ, who is crucially starting to create a little bit of a gap. Here comes Chief Braids now, trying to go down the inside once again, slowing down a little bit earlier than Kaz to take this corner, but they crucially both have DRS, so it's essentially nullifying the DRS effect on one another there, as they both have it, so they're both going at that same type of top speed. So that's not what we like to see. K-Dog, though, on the other hand, she made full work of possibly a mistake from Chunky Corgi right behind, as K-Dog finds herself up into P9 now, but is going to have to watch out. Still stuck right in the middle of this train, and you can see with the DRS, anything is possible. It's definitely going to... it's definitely not going to stay this way with the order. We're going to see a few more overtakes between now and the end of the race. I'm fairly certain of that, if I need to be honest with you all watching at home. But still, we've got really good battles here in the midfield. I can't keep my eyes off of this these what looks to be about 4 or 5 cars very close together. We're starting to see a little bit more separation as battles are starting to be formed, but still a very close battle between Kaz and Maida, as Maida is in 6th, Kaz down in 7th, but you can see Kaz closing this gap ever so slightly, down to 4/10 now, closing it up to 3.5 of a second, and we might see an overtake here with the help of DRS, as Maida is 2 seconds behind young DJ, trying to break the toe, trying to force Kaz into a bit of a mistake on the exit here. But now you can see closing, and crucially, I think Chief Braids is starting to close up too, just a tiny little bit. Is Kaz going to launch one down the inside? It looks like he will. Is he going to get the brakes in time? Yes, he will as well. But how is Maida going to react to this? As he's going to slot in behind is Maida, right behind his team, right ahead of his teammate, right behind Kaz. So the overtake was done, but now with the DRS, both Williams drivers do, we might see this position switch right back. So here we go. They're going to go, a little bit of a touching wheels between Maida and Kaz, as now that's going to allow Chief Braids to get ahead. Kaz, unfortunately, losing out on an extra position there. Oh, no! That was a big moment there. Maida completely losing out the car. We got the worst possible angle after getting the best angle, seeing Kaz nearly getting caught up with that. But unfortunately for Maida, that's a lot of hard work done and dusted, all gone, as that's some wing damage and end plate missing on that Williams, and that might be an extra pit stop for Maida, something that definitely was not expecting. And it looks like that is going to be a pit stop, get that wing change. So a little bit of a costly mistake for Maida, as you can see Bahrain Short definitely showing its teeth here in this stage of the race, especially around that around what looks to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, around turn 6 to turn 7 if I'm counting them right, or possibly turn 5, turn 6, turn 6, turn 7, depending on what constitutes a turn here at this track. But here I'll just make things a little bit easier. This section right here that Chunky Corgi is going by, a lot of teeth here if you're not careful on that inside curb, and even then the outside curb as well if you're not careful. Really easy to lose that car if you're not careful, and I think that's exactly what happened to Maida. But back out on the pits on a fresh set of mediums, can definitely go to the end now, take those mediums, 17 or 18 laps, I should say, 17 laps. But crucially, very quickly, that's Maida retiring out of the session here. Was that an accident from Maida? Let's take a look here as Chunky Corgi and K-Dog are having a nice little battle. I don't think that was a crash out. I think that might have just been a flat-out retirement from Maida, taking an early start to next week's preparations after that not having the race they were hoping for here. We've got the yellow flags as that car is going to pull off to the exit road on the side, as you see it there as we're flying by it. But Maida, another driver out here. We are up to 4 DNFs, 4 retirements here of the race, and down to 15 drivers on the grid. Murph and Selly leading the way here in this stage of the race, lap 36 out of 57. No, it's a little bit more than 20 laps, as I'm trying to correct myself on my math I gave earlier. Quick math is hard here for me, so apologies to everybody watching at home who was probably yelling at the screen, yelling at me that my math was off there. But here we go, starting lap 36 out of 57, 21 laps to go in this Grand Prix if my updated math checks out, and I believe it does here. We are riding with Kaz as he is right behind K-Dog and Chunky Corgi, as this battle that we've seen for the entirety of the race thus far is just continuing onwards. Here comes K-Dog as she is going to try to go down the inside, possibly, of Chunky Corgi, but unfortunately the not enough room to get the overtake done, just not enough straight. The corner came just a little bit too quickly for K-Dog, and will need to remain in 8th, but that won't stop from trying again. Now, crucially up ahead, that's Chief Braids trying to get ahead of the, I believe that's Racing Ginger, who is not necessarily stuck in this battle. That is a lapped car there, so nothing to worry too much about, as Chief Braids is trying to close up to young DJ CJ, who's done a very good job building a gap of his own as he's trying to close up to Houdini up into P4. So a solid recovery drive, I have to say, from young DJ CJ at this stage of the race, but might need a little bit more in the tank, as it's going to involve one more pit stop, because there's no way these soft tires that are already 20 laps old can go another essentially 20 laps, if I'm going to be honest. That's not happening. There's no way it's going to be another pit stop for sure for young DJ CJ. But back to this battle. Kaz very close now to K-Dog. That DRS definitely helped close that gap. But crucially, we're seeing a lot of gaps closing up, but not so much in terms of overtakes with this battle. The DRS train seems to be very strong, and it seems like the driver ahead, in this case Chunky Corgi and K-Dog, they're getting the exits they need to quickly get on the power and try to nullify some of that DRS. I think really Chunky Corgi is nailing his exits here as he needs to. So when you're seeing K-Dog with DRS and Kaz with DRS, so they essentially nullify each other out, but K-Dog now might be trying to go down the inside, but no, Kaz, oh my goodness, what a bomb move by Kaz, as unfortunately that's a little bit of a dangerous move, if I'm being honest there. I don't think that he was going to make the corner, trying to get out of the way, but unfortunately takes another driver of Chunky Corgi with them. That might be something the stewards might look into, if I'm going to be honest, if I'm just going to give my own personal opinion on that. Just because that was that looked to be very dangerous, if I'm being completely honest. Especially with the second DRS zone coming up, but I think Kaz maybe just tired of seeing that, seeing those same cars behind, trying to get some overtakes done, trying to give some action to the stream. And for Kaz, now is that going to be a retirement there, as he's essentially parked on track here at the exit, and that might be the end of the race for Kaz, unless he can find a way to get that Alfa Romeo back up and running. But we'll have to see here. He does get it back up and running, but no, that's a disqualification from Kaz, as I think he was parked there for just a little bit too long. Got it up and running, but it was too little too late, as that's an early exit for Kaz with 17 laps to go. Unholy Red Eye now getting ahead of Chunky Corgi, as he's forced to take a pit stop. Chunky Corgi is to switch that front wing, so that is going to be a lot of time lost here. Now, of course, chat is going crazy when my chat closes, so apologies that I did not get to see the messages that were flowing in here. But I think maybe a little bit of let's see, can Scuttlebutt Hole make it to the end? Well, let's take a look here. Where is Scuttlebutt Hole? Oh my goodness, up into P3 on those soft tires, no less. That is a very good question. If I am going to be honest here, I don't think Scuttlebutt Hole is going to be able to make it to the end, because he's going to have to go another 17 laps. That'll make those soft tires have to go 37, 38 laps, and I think that's a little bit too much to ask. Not to take anything away from Scuttlebutt Hole, but I think that's just too much to ask for those tires. I don't think those tires are physically allowed to go 37 laps here around Bahrain Short. But of course, what do I know here, as I'm just the guy in the commentaries booth talking through the action. Scuttlebutt Hole, he's the driver, he's got the data, he's got the a lot more than I do here as far as the information is concerned. And it appears as though for Kaz, the foot came off of the brake, and that's really unfortunate. I mean, it happens. Trust me, I'm on the wheel myself, and I've had that where I'll go ahead and hit the brake, and all of a sudden it slips over to my clutch pedal, and I find myself just wide-eyed going into the corner. So it happens to the best of us, but it's alright, Kaz. You'll rebound, and I mean, if there's a race to rebound, it's going to be next week when we take to the streets of Monaco, and that is going to be a race where we're really going to see the driver's skill play into effect, the Monaco Grand Prix. But of course, that's next week. We're not even done with this week yet, as we're still here, and crucially, let's take a look. Scuttlebutt Hole, that question was answered very quickly, as he is out of the pit stops now in P6 with a fresh set of medium tires, as he is going to try and push with those much fresher tires than everybody else here. Houdini finds himself in a podium here. Chief Braids in fourth is trying to close up that gap. But we've got a little bit of gaps here that have started to form. Murph and Selly still leading the way. Let's give the Haas driver just a little bit of love here on the stream. We haven't really given much of any airtime here for this race, but he's been sort of in his own world, doing his own race, driving around, chatting with his engineer, I think. Having a little bit of fun, figuring out how they want to go about this. And even GDB now has driven a very good race in P2, done what they had to do first and second, and have essentially allowed themselves some... the ball is in their court. If they want this podium, it's theirs to lose. With now Houdini pulling off that strategy here, he finds himself in P3. So it's a Ferrari on the podium. The Tifosi is absolutely loving this, I'm sure. But... for Houdini, he's maybe under a little bit more pressure, as Chief Braids finds himself in 4th, only 6 seconds behind. Slightly more worn tires in that Williams, excuse me, but the Williams has shown a lot of pace. Now, young DJ CJ closing up on Disgruntled Muppet, thought about making a move down the inside there, but unfortunately unable to close up enough of a gap and had to back out of that move. Going to await here, and I think this might have been the strategy. Make it seem like you're going to make a move, slow down, and then make that move down the next straight with DRS, so that way Disgruntled Muppet is not able to actually come back. You can create a gap here in the corners through these corner section here. Let's see, it's going to be 0.7 of a second, nearly a second back here, but I think Disgruntled Muppet will have DRS either way. But is it going to be enough to close that gap right back up? I don't think it is, as no, definitely not, as now GDB taking a pit stop here. Why is GDB taking a pit stop? He could go to the end without a problem on those mediums. Is this going to be maybe a wing change here for the Racing Point? Yes, it's going to be a wing change and a set of soft tires. And that means Houdini finds himself up into P2. GDB, due to a costly mistake with a wing change, is going to be pitting himself out of a podium here in this stage, finding himself now behind Scuttlebutt Hole, who is on those fresh set of medium tires. So Scuttlebutt Hole up into P5. K-Dog now finds himself up into 4th, but Chief Braids now is in a podium position here as Houdini in 2nd, Murph and Selly. That gap is essentially continued to grow up to 40 seconds as he now finds himself right behind the GDB, who's in 7th, having just come out of the pit stop here. Your eyes are not deceiving you. Unfortunately, it's not GDB who overtook for the lead. That's just Murph and Selly flying around Bahrain short, and nearly, I think maybe trying to lap the field, if I'm being honest here, and doing a good job of it. Has lapped at least half the running order, just about. But now GDB closing up to the young DJ CJ, and he's flying. Might be looking to snag a fastest lap in the process here. He's going to use young DJ CJ and some DRS for help here, as he's going to go very quickly make the overtake down what is the inside, heading down the start finish straight very quickly up into P6. Gonna try to close this gap up, maybe pump fast this lap for good measure. Uh-oh, that's not good, as that's young DJ CJ making contact with GDB. Another costly mistake for the Red Bull driver as he falls down another position. Disgruntled Muppet up into 7th. Young DJ is back on the field now, back on the track, but it's an extra position loss for young DJ. And that's a costly mistake there for sure, as colliding to the back of GDB, maybe missing out that dirty air, causing a little bit of issues for young DJ CJ in that braking zone, just unable to slow the car down in time. GDB, though, he's got a purple second sector, so let's stick with him. Are we going to see a purple lap time? Are we going to see a fastest lap from GDB on those softs? He would be the person to do it here this late in the race. He crosses the line. It is going to be a fastest lap here for GDB on those soft tires, as he's absolutely flying, trying to close up to Scuttlebutt Hole, who's in P5. But still, Murph and Selly leading the way. They're taking a pit stop. They can do it. They're going to be putting on a set of soft tires, saying anything GDB can do, he can do too. Was that a slow exit though from Murph and Selly, or maybe just a little bit of lag there, as that's Unholy Red Eye taking a pit stop too. Lots of drivers looking to put on these soft tires, maybe snag an extra point in the Drivers' Championship, hoping to get that really hoping to get that possible fastest lap of the Grand Prix. But you can see Scuttlebutt Hole on those fresh set of medium tires here, only 4 laps sold, has really closed that gap up to K-Dog, and with 10 laps to go, K-Dog is going to have to defend for her life if she wants to hold on to that P4, because Scuttlebutt Hole is a man on a mission trying to get back to that podium here, and I think he's going to do what he can, and what's within what he's absolutely possible to do to try to get to that podium here with 10 laps to go in this Grand Prix here. Murph and Selly pit from the lead, came back out on the lead on those soft tires, as you can see, crossing the line here, starting what is essentially his flying lap here to try to snag that fastest lap of the Grand Prix. We'll see how we'll see if he gets it done. Subtle but Hold, though, meanwhile, thought about going around the outside of that penultimate corner, but that is not a corner that you can make an overtake on easily. That line just completely closes with the way you take that corner, and trying to show K-Dog that Subtle but Hold, that McLaren is in the mirrors. K-Dog, though, I think she's used to seeing a McLaren in her mirrors through this entire race, but with the help of DRS, it was only a matter of time, and that is Subtle but Hold up into 4th. K-Dog put up a valiant effort, but she finds herself down in 5th position as the overtake with DRS just a little bit too strong here. The Disgruntled Muppet diving into the pits here in these late stages. They might be putting on a set of soft tires, and it looks like more and more drivers, they've had enough of the mediums, putting a set of soft tires on to go to the end. Let's quickly switch over. Murphy snags the fastest lap of the Grand Prix there. As you can see, that purple track map, as they were absolutely flying, trying to regrow that gap now. I'm saying only 23 seconds, but you know, it was much more previously. Disgruntled Muppet had a drag race leaving the pits, but that was Klugmonger who won that drag race on those much more worn medium tires. But I do think Disgruntled Muppet is going to get an overtake done sooner rather than later. But Racing Ginger getting himself involved too here. But lap 49 out of 57, the laps are just ticking down very quickly here in this Grand Prix. As you can see here, GDB is closing up on those soft tires, and he's starting to catch up to K-Dog. K-Dog, I think, is committing to that one stop. She's going to try to go to the end of the race. She's got 8 laps to go, but she's got some fast drivers that are closing up. GDB on those softs, really trying to close up, and we've seen the pace you can have on these soft tires and how long you can take them. So expect GDB to be pushing here between from now up until the end of the race to try to get that overtake, try to snag those extra points in the Drivers' Championship here after the second race. It is still a long season. We'll have 10 races to go after this one, but the earlier you can snag points in the in this Drivers' Championship, the better off you'll be. This Disgruntled Muppet almost looks like he was passing a pedestrian car there with the pace difference, getting ahead of Klugmonger, as now GDB getting ahead of K-Dog as they went side by side as they were going through turn 1. GDB, though, with DRS, similar to what we saw with Subtle but Hold. K-Dog put up a valiant effort, but once again, the DRS is just very, very powerful here around here in Bahrain, and with the quicker tires as well, it seemed like it was only going to be a matter of when, not if, this move was done. We've got a yellow flag, though, as who is that? That's Unholy Red Eye going for a little bit of a trip in the sand in Bahrain, coming back on circuit now, but that's going to be a couple positions lost in the process. I think coming back now, thankfully he had enough of a gap to Team B7 Racing, but I think trying to push the fastest laps maybe a little bit too much, having to get out of the way now to allow some of these drivers through. As you can see, very slowly inching to the pits now is Unholy Red Eye with that wing damage, no less. So that is not what you like to see at all from the Mercedes. That is definitely going to affect the outcome of the race. And Unholy Red Eye, after that was the last straw. They've had enough. They're retiring in the pits, and that is going to be an early end to the race weekend for Unholy Red Eye. We are down to 13 runners here in the race, as the rest have opted to take an early start to preparation next week, which is definitely going to be needed. As mentioned previously, it's going to be Monaco, and as PJ Reed is saying, Monaco involves more nose changes than Michael Jackson, and I do have to agree that it's going to be a lot of nose changes, a lot of front wing. You're gonna have to pack a spare front wing in Monaco, and then maybe an extra one too to keep in your back pocket just in case once we do hit Monaco. But of course, as mentioned, that's next week. We still have to finish this week's race here, but the gaps are starting to form now as we've seen these strategies play out. Murphy has driven an absolute stellar race here, as he is essentially led the entire way through. He is driving here. I'm gonna pull this from the previous stream. He is driving a fantastic race here in that Haas car. Here with the lead in that number 83 Haas car. And don't worry, I'll see myself out after this race. But here, actually, we've got a little bit of a battle here going on. Excuse me a moment, as we've got the Racing Point and the McLaren having a nice little battle here. This is for P4, as these two strategies are starting to close up. And let's see, is the soft tire just going to be quick enough with DRS? Subtle but hold, trying to break the slipstream going down the inside line. GDB being forced to the outside, but it seems to be the better racing line around turn 1. There's a little bit of contact there between the wheels of the two drivers. Subtle but hold hangs on to P4 as GDB is still in 5th, but now with a second bite of the DRS cherry down the second straight here. This might be where the overtake is going to happen. He's going to once again have to go around the outside, but this is a much better line to take. Kind of chopped soft, Subtle but hold, but after the contact, I don't think there was any love lost. There's a bit of an accident here. It looks like a yellow flag on the final corner, as that might be Chunky Gorgie maybe having a bit of a moment in the other McLaren, as it's definitely not the McLaren of Subtle but hold, as he's on your screen right now. But Subtle but hold down in P5. GDB finds himself up into 4th, and if GDB can really get his head down, really push, he's got 3 seconds to try to close up to Chief Braids if he wants to snag that podium. But he's on the much fresher set of tires. Chief Braids, he's just trying to hang on to the end here on 31 lap old medium tires. He's running that one stop I was talking about that I thought most drivers were going to go for here. But it looks like the 2-stop here is going to be close. Already the gap down to 2.7, but the laps are going to be taken away. We're on lap 55 out of 57. This is the big storyline here. We've got the battle for what could be the final podium position here. But let's take a look here. Actually, I just noticed we are near the end of the session. The detail, forget the tire detail. Let's take a look. Ooh, Chief Braids has a 3-second penalty, and GDB is 2.2 seconds back. So as it stands right now, this is GDB's podium, and possibly the podium of Subtle but hold if he re-overtakes GDB, as they are both sticking with Chief. They are both sticking with each other and very quickly hunting down Chief Braids. So Chief Braids is really gonna have to start pushing now if he wants to hang on to that podium. But this battle for P4, P5 might be the podium battle here, unless Chief Braids is able to create a 3-second gap, or we see more penalties start to fall here between now and the end of the race. But we are on the penultimate, or Murphy is on the penultimate lap. He's just starting his penultimate lap. Everybody else still on lap 55 out of 57 here, so still 2 laps to go for most of these drivers here, as we're still seeing Subtle but hold closing up on, trying to close up on GDB. The gap is right around 2.1 seconds. Uh-oh, that's not what you like to see. K-Dog has left the session. Possible connection issues here for the Renault driver, as she was doing so well here at with the later stages. I hope this was just a connection issue. But we all know what happens when the AI takes control of the car. It is not nearly as fast as a human control. But we'll see how this is all going to play out. But the laps are ticking down on lap 56 out of 57 for most of these drivers. Murphy, though, about to cross the line, starting the final lap of the Grand Prix. They only have to go one more time here around this circuit before they can see the checkered flag. Murphy, a stellar race all throughout, and if they can make it around for one final lap, they can finally breathe a little bit easier after putting in a lot of hard work here for preparation, and it is paying off here, a 37-second gap. But here elsewhere on track, this is where the battle is going to be. GDB has closed up to under a second at Chief Braids. It might not matter much in terms of the final order, but crucially, Subtle but hold has been falling back. Some pace has been lost a little bit here. For Subtle But Whole on those mediums, I think these softs were the better option compared to the mediums here for the end of the race. Just with the pace here, and I guess they probably wear very similarly or in a similar manner. And so GDB pulling off that strategy to perfection and might snag a podium. But there you have it. Murphy crosses the line. That is the victory here. He is going to be the winner of the Bahrain Short Grand Prix here, as it's an absolute fantastic drive. Congratulations to Murphy, and we might be able to get his thoughts on the post race after that. As promised, I'm gonna be doing interviews now. I flacked out or did not do the interviews after race 1, but that won't mean I'm gonna get them through here for the rest of the session. Here comes Houdini, an early vote for driver of the day, starting in P6 up into P2. What a drive from Houdini, and it's going to be GDB who gets the podium. I think he got it on the line there, as it was so close a photo finish there. Chief Braids, though, falling down to 5th. The Subtle But Whole comes 4th. Young DJ CJ crossing the line in 6th. And that's K-Dog, who was last there. Murph and Fallen Monkeys is my biggest fan. I mean, I do have to, after a racy pull there, I might sign me up, Murph and Selly. What a drive that was. But congratulations to Murph and Selly. Congratulations to Houdini. Congratulations to GDB. Congrats to the podium. Congrats to everybody. You survived Bahrain Short. What a race that was, as you can see, lifting the trophy, absolutely popping the champagne, enjoying the drink. Yes, Murph and Selly, you may have the drink. unlike a certain Finnish driver we know in the real life Formula 1, Murph and Selly will definitely have the drink here. But there we have it. That has been the Bahrain Grand Prix. One more time through the order. It's Murph and Selly starting on pole, taking the victory here in very commanding fashion. Houdini from 6th up into 2nd, and GDB from 9th up to 3rd. Subtle But Whole in 4th. Chief Braids in 5th, rounding out the top 5. Young DJ CJ in 6th. K-Dog from 11th up to 7th, so a solid drive from her as well, with Disgruntled Muppet in 8th, Chunky Corgi in 9th, and Clogmonger rounding out the top 10. Team B7 Racing in 11th, Racing Ginger 18 in 12th, Team Air Jordan rounding out the top 13, Unholy Red Eye in 14th, Kaz, a Wild Maida, a Wild Maida, It's Heavy, C Freeman, Guitar Maniac from are rounding out from 15th to 19th, but all DNFing here. So they will not be classified on this race, but that was a fantastic race. Now, bear with me a quick moment here, as you might just be hearing my voice with nothing to be seen on the screen here, as I go ahead and send the invites over, so we can get a little bit of input, get some post-race action here, and see what the drivers have to say about it. Let's get the podiums in. I will be back in just a moment. Alrighty, so I have added the at least the drivers that I could add. I got a little bit of a message indicating that some drivers, due to their party settings, are unable to be added. But we will see if we can get anybody into the post-race interviews so we can get some action here. And look at that, we have Murph and Selly here in the chat. Murph and Selly, can you hear us at all?
I can hear you.
Perfect. So I'm going to start off by saying congratulations on the victory. An absolute dominant performance for you there. Definitely earned the Selly part of your name, if I'm being honest, after that. But I'll be honest, I don't have much to say about that race, but maybe you've got a little bit more input. So talk us through it. What are your thoughts here after that race?
I mean, that took a lot of practice laps. I had that practice race the other day with a couple of D1 guys, which helped give me a good line and good setup, and take it from there.
Awesome. I mean, it definitely worked out for you. So, I mean, I'm gonna ask because you ran away with it there, and I want to ask quickly with that second pit stop. When you opted to put on the soft tires, did you see GDB take a pit stop and think, no, that's gonna be my fastest lap, or was that part of the intended strategy?
It was always part of the intended strategy. I was potentially going to run the one stop, but I had a good enough gap, so I thought, let's go for the fastest lap.
Perfect. And I think you did get the fastest lap. Am I right with that?
I did. Sub 100, which is, I think, my best for an in-race lap.
There you go. Yeah, that's more of a quality pace type lap, sub 1 minute. So absolutely flying there. But I mean, like I said, a solid race all throughout. Now, I mean, the last question I'm going to ask is, well, did you feel anybody could possibly catch you here today?
I had my worries about Young, because he's always given me problems in other leagues that we've raced against, but I saw that he spun on a couple laps in. I was a little upset, but that's the way she goes, I guess.
Yep. And I mean, after a performance like that, do you think we'll be seeing you up in some of the higher tiers sooner rather than later?
I'm hoping so. Matt Rosie's a good friend of mine. I want to come for his spot. I want to come for his race against and take his fastest lap from him, because I know he's pretty good at getting fastest lap.
There you go. So Matt Rosie, if you're watching the stream by some miracle, Murph and Selly's coming for you. You heard it here first. But let's take a look. I don't think we had anybody else jump in. So but there we have it. I think I'm gonna end this stream here. So that has been the Bahrain Grand Prix here at Bahrain Short. Thank you so much everybody to watching. It was a fantastic race. I hope you all enjoyed it as much as I did. And as mentioned, you're gonna want to tune in same time, same place next week as we take to the streets of Monaco, and that is going to be a good one. You are not going to want to miss that one. Monaco, always exciting, and I'm sure this one is going to be a fantastic race as well. But until then, I've been Fallen Monkeys, and on behalf of everybody here at Midwest F1, thank you for watching, and have yourselves a fantastic evening.